Not many people know what the brand name Maen stands for. It was never actually explained to me either. It means moon in Old Dutch. Now the significance for the brand name for Maen is because the very first watch that they ever released was a quartz moon phase. And that's how this brand started. Now they've decided to relaunch the moon phase watch, but this time with an automatic movement. So for Maen, this is a pretty special moment for their brand. Now I'm going to share the specs of this watch as well as its price and its release details for all those who are interested, but I'm also going to share with you how I've experienced this watch on the wrist, my findings, what I've enjoyed and what I haven't, and where I think the watch could potentially offer any room for improvement. Now you saw the pop-up. Maen has sponsored this video, so I will of course leave a link in the description section so you can check out this watch if it interests you. And diving straight into the specs of the watch, I measure a case diameter of 36 and a case height of 11.4. That lug to lug is 42.8 with a lug width of 20. Now the crown is a 4.9mm signed crown. The watch offers 50 meters of water resistance, and the total weight on the bracelet size to my 18cm wrist, I measure exactly 100 grams. Now being a 36mm, as you can see on the wrist, it's a very petite experience. Those broad lugs give it a little bit more presence. And that height, which I measure at 11.4 to the top of that sapphire, has really worked well on the wrist. Now that bracelet's got a beautiful taper from 20 to 16, and it seems to be engineered really well. I think the watch is very vintage looking in its design. It's raw. It's got some very interesting angles and geometry in that case. And even looking at the sides of the case, you can see that they're brushed vertically, which is harkening to a time long ago. So surprisingly, I've actually enjoyed the watch's design because it's appealing to the past, and I think it's done tastefully. And the best way for me to describe the design of this watch, it's raw. It feels raw, but strangely alluring and attractive because I love wearing it and to look at it. So I think they've done a really good job, even though it might look slightly unfinished to some. Now turning my attention to that crystal, the watch offers a boxed sapphire crystal, which only serves to accentuate that vintage vibe and design. And as I mentioned, the majority of the height, the case height itself is really thin, and that boxed crystal just gives it that air of being classic in its execution. Now if I turn the watch over, you'll notice there's a solid caseback, and behind that caseback is a Sellita SW280 automatic. It's basically got a moon phase indicator at 6, around 41 hours, hacking, hand winding. I think it's a nice solid performer for this classic inspired design. And the way the watch works is very simple. We pull the crown out to the second position, as you can see, we've hacked the movement. We can adjust the time to wherever we want, and away you go. A single click will allow us to adjust that moon phase. As you can see, in increments to the desired position, and then we can lock that in as well. And whilst we're on the dial, if you look at the website, I believe there's 4 color options available: blue, black, silver, and salmon. The one I've got here in my hands is the silver, and I've had 0 issues with legibility and ease of use. So I think these are tastefully done. Next, if I draw my attention to that bracelet, I have to give this design top marks. When I first unboxed this watch, I saw the bracelet and I was expecting a hair pincher, which was going to be very bothersome and uncomfortable. However, I got the complete opposite. Not only has the experience been enjoyable on the wrist, my manly Greek arm hairs have remained intact. I love the brick road pavement look. It's nicely refined. There's a beautiful taper, as I mentioned, from 20 to 16. It's got screw pins, a butterfly clasp, and it seems to work and integrate just perfectly, which was a surprise to me, because for a watch without any micro adjustability, I've had no issues. Lastly, if we have a look at the lume of the watch, it's just there, only just, and for the genre of watch, I think it's playing into that classic vintage vibe just the way it should. It's not overly done, it's pretty much understated, and you're not buying a watch like this for its lume. Now in saying all that, what are my gripes or room for improvement for this watch? What have I found throughout the week that I think could offer some change or some benefit? And first and foremost for me, that crown. That crown is 4.9 millimeters, and it's a little bit niggly. It's a little bit small to wind, and I've already spoken to Maen, and they've assured me that the production versions will feature a bigger crown. So in that department, it's all sorted, which is great. Next, I haven't mentioned the price. The pre-orders are going to come in at €839 with a €40 discount for the first 150 orders. After that, the price will settle at €919. So that's a little bit steep in my eyes. So if you're keen on this watch, my suggestion is get in on the pre-order, as that's a substantial saving. Also, I forgot to mention, there's going to be an option to have a sapphire display case back, as well as the movement upgraded to a top grade fully decorated version of that Solida for an additional €350. Now the option is great, but the price does get up there. So bear that in mind. And lastly, there is no micro adjustability on this bracelet, as it does feature a butterfly clasp, and I was going to include this in my room for improvement section. However, in practice, for my wrist, I found zero issues regarding comfort and wearability. In fact, it's been a total surprise to me. So top marks on that bracelet. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. I wanted to share my thoughts on this Maen LUNAR CLASSIC, a very vintage classic inspired watch. It's basically a re-release of their original, but designed differently with an automatic movement, drawing its inspiration from the past. And I think in its execution, what they've delivered and how it wears and how it works on the wrist has been pretty impressive, to say the least. So thanks for watching. I'll leave all the links in the description. If this watch interests you, feel free, check them out. Continue to enjoy the hobby and the watch that's currently on your wrist. Stay well and safe, and we'll see you in the next one.